thank you guys all for being here. All right. So if you have any questions, if you have not already done so, please go to the athlete's guide, and that can be found right here at our website, meevents.com, race-details-Hyannis-2. And that will answer a ton of your questions. And there's also the chat room. Sorry, Andy's over here to my right. He'll be joining us a little bit later, but in the meantime, he's like feeding me information. So there is a chat button that's usually at the bottom of your screen. It might be at the top of your screen. If you have a question, throw it into chat, and either I'll answer it, Andy will answer it, or sometimes other athletes that are on the call will answer that too. So, but you'll definitely get questions answered if you throw them in the chat. I'm also going to put into the chat, because there'll be several times throughout this that you're going to want to contact somebody. And I am going to put Lori Gilmore's email in the chat for everybody. So when I say just email Lori, this is what I mean. Just go right to the top of your chat and her email will be there. Sorry about that, Lori. All right. So we've gotten rid of all the housekeeping. Let's dig in. So if anyone participated in the Hyannis one this year, it was the state championship, and there was a few alterations to our typical Hyannis race. And so we are reverting back to what we normally do. So just as a refresher, last year, or Hyannis 1, we had a penalty tent that was forced upon us by USAT. We're not going to do that Hyannis 2 since it's not a state championship. We were also required to allow double dipping for awards, which means if you're an age grouper and you came in first overall, you would, for Hyannis 1, you would have been able to get your overall award, and then you would have gotten an age group award as well. And then that's kind of not fair to everybody else that's in that age group. So in that case, if someone wins the overall first, second, or third for sprint or for Olympic, then they're taken out of the age group or their category, and somebody else gets to move up into that position. So we're kind of, spreading the wealth. USAT memberships. We've gotten a number of emails from those that are still struggling with their USAT memberships. You've probably received several emails if your membership is not either, you have an annual that is not renewed, or you need a one-day. You get an email from our registration system that says your registration is not complete because you need this USAT membership. Please get that before the race. We can no longer accept cash on race day. Used to be able to just fill out a form, give us cash, we were all set. That is no longer the case. USAT won't allow that. So if you get to the race and you don't have a USAT membership, you're going to have to sit there on your phone with your credit card and add it in. So it's much easier to do it at home before you come. If you're struggling with it, sometimes today I've had 3 different people that say, oh, my membership isn't working, and found out that their birth date, they didn't get their birth date right, either on our registration system or the USAT system. And if it doesn't match, the birth dates don't match exactly, USAT won't validate it. So that's a big problem. Sometimes people will transpose the letters in their name or something like that. So check those things first. And then you're able to make that change. Or if you're still just totally flummoxed, send Lori, that email is in chat, send her a note and say, hey, can you help me out here? And she'll be happy to help. All right. Bike bar plugs. What we're talking about is your handlebars. Most bikes have, you got your handlebars go around, and then you've got plugs right there usually. You've got to have that plugged up. If you're to crash on your with your bike, that handlebar can go into your abdomen. If you have plugs, it's less likely that will happen. We have some available on race morning, but if you check your bike before you come, you'll save yourself a bit of time and aggravation. The other thing that comes up a lot is, let's say you're doing sprint and you were super fast and you got through transition, and there's still all these other people out on the bike course, but you want to get your bike out because you want to go have breakfast. Well, your bike's got to stay in transition until after all of the bikes are off the bike course. First, it's a USAT rule, and it's for safety. And it's only fair. Everyone should have the opportunity to be able to be on the course without having people with their bikes trying to get to their car and being in the way. So if you can keep that in mind, that would be appreciated. So we're doing all this negative stuff all in a row, but I promise there's good stuff too. Swim warm-ups, if you can do your swim warm-up before 7 a.m., that's when the Olympic distance starts. We can't have other people in the water when the race has started. So you can just please keep that in mind when you're planning. And then actually I'm going to save the last one because that's the fun one. Road surfaces. Andy was out on the course today putting some signs out. He noticed that there's a number of potholes and kind of rough road that has not been repaired and probably won't be. The town's getting ready to do their water system. They keep moving down different roads. So we are not going to we're not going to have smooth bike course. So just kind of keep that in mind. And then the Olympic swim course, again, Andy was out placing buoys and noticed that some of the associations have their water things, their docks, things like that are kind of in a way that's going to make us be a little more creative about that swim course. We are still trying to get the 0.9 out of the Olympic swim, but we'll have to be a little creative. So if you'll just make sure to note that before you start the race. And then the fun part, two things. One, the free picks. So if you guys have been racing with us this season, then you know that we started giving away free pictures. That means there's not as many of them because it's our staff that's out there taking photos, and we try to get a finish line photo and then some other photos of you on the course. And you do have to go through everything, you know, all the photos. We do like a smug mug. You get a link, you get to go through all the photos and kind of relive your fun day and then pick your photos out of that. And those are free to download. So I hope you enjoy that. And then I mentioned Andy. He was out on the swim course. The water is 71 degrees. So that will be terrific for a race morning. And then speaking of water, you notice I've got this little cold plunge logo here. This is to remind me, the cold plunge guys, they are relatively new. They're up in Beverly. Cold plunge, you know, has become the new best thing. They are coming to, they'll be at Friday from 5 to 7 during packet pickup. They'll be there if you want to take the cold plunge. They'll also be available. They'll have some tubs race morning before the race, and then they'll have after the race. So if you want to do a cold plunge, by all means, it's just kind of makes it a fun event. All right. Finally, next, volunteers. We can always use volunteers, and we love them. Volunteers have a good time. We could use some more. So if you have family or friends that are coming and they're normally just kind of hanging out, just waiting for you to go by, then please ask them if they want to volunteer. They do get a shirt, they get a bike bottle, they get to kind of be a part of that action. And there's Lori's email. So if you wouldn't mind sending Lori a note and letting her know, or if you go into our registration system, and I will ask Lori if you're on, if you'll put that in chat and put the link to registration so we can register, so someone can register as a volunteer. So we really appreciate that. We've had like the best volunteers ever this year. So I hope that one of your loved ones or more would like to be a part of that. All right. So other new things for this year, we've done Aquathlon. So the Aquathlon starts with the Olympic distance because it is it's Olympic distance without the bike. So you'll start at 7 a.m. You will follow the Olympic course. So you'll do the longer course on the swim, which is 0.9 miles. And then you'll just go right to the run. You skip the bike altogether. You will follow, if you can see my cursor, you'll follow that run course as the Olympic distance athletes typically do. So it's kind of a lollipop. You'll go down here, you'll see a sign and a water stop that says turn around Olympic. That would be you. And then you go around and do that part of the course again, and then just come back to the finish. So that should be a lot of fun. And it's overall awards only, no age group awards for the Aquathon or the Aquabike. And then the lobster pot team challenge. We've been doing it for the last few years. If you are a member of a team and you're not sure about scoring, if you go to the Hyannis 2 page on our website, there's a link for a PDF, and you can get what this year how we're scoring for the awards. But you get a cool pot and all sorts of fun stuff. Hydration on the course this year is Sierra Sport. Sierra has sponsored all of our races for 2023. It is really great hydration. It's rice-based, doesn't hurt your stomach, it tastes good. It's like, I can't say enough great things about it. So if you want to, you'll get something in your swag bag. You'll get like a little card. But if you want to order some beforehand, there's a 50% off discount for your first order. So just use that Sierra knee. And that helps them see that we've got athletes that love their products. And it's good for you. Of course, you get 50% off. All right. Nauset Rental is our bike bottle sponsor this year. So huge thank you to Nauset Rental. These are finisher water bottles. People ask, oh, do you have finisher medals? And we don't. We have finisher bottles. So we do that because a medal typically ends up in a drawer, but the bike bottle is something you can use over and over again. So we're trying to reduce our footprint just a little bit with giving you something that you can actually use. So when you get your bike bottle, consider that your finisher medal and you get to use it. And if you either second homeowner or you don't live on the Cape and you want to rent a house, Nauset Rental is just awesome. So they are locally owned and their website's right there. So thank you. Sorry for the shameless plug. And our charity charity partner this year is Habitat for Humanity. We have raised, you guys, I should say, for Hyannis 2, donations so far, $904. Now, over the course of the season, between Hyannis 1, Falmouth, and Hyannis 2, we've raised over $2,700 for Habitat for Humanity. So, so that is huge. So thank you guys so much for being so generous. All right. So I'm going to stop the share for just a second. And now anybody who has raced Hyannis before and just wants to hang out with us, that's great. We'd love to have you. If you don't need any more information, by all means, go off, have dinner, and we'll see you either Friday night at 5 to 7 for packet pickup or Saturday morning. All right. Do we have any questions for those people that have done Hyannis before, but
here's a question that I think maybe we should mention, just talk about so we don't lose this person or others wondering about. You have to be a USAT member to participate. So I think they may not be aware of the one-day waiver.
Okay. So I see, Chris, you asked about the one-day membership, or excuse me, about the USAT membership. You have to be a USAT member in order to race. That's for any sanctioned triathlon. The part of it, though, that Andy was just saying, I don't know if you can hear him from here, you can get a one day. So you can be a member for a day. You don't have to do an annual, but that means the only way to do that one day membership is to follow the link of all the emails we keep sending you. And if you haven't been getting them, but you don't have your USAT membership, check your junk box. I think one went out just the other day. So you have to go through that link because that connects directly to the Hyannis 2 through the USAT system. So then they know here's somebody that wants a one day and they're doing Hyannis 2, and then they'll connect that. Otherwise, you can't do a one day membership. Their system doesn't allow you to just go to their website and get it. But everybody has to have one. So that's for your benefit because it gives you the event insurance. If, let's say one of those potholes gets the best of you, it will cover any medical issues beyond your own insurance. It also helps us. It gives us insurance as well. Sprint triathletes. Actually, some of these questions are ones that we can, for those that haven't raced with us before. Kristen, you asked about all relay teams. Yes, every member, every person that's participating, whether it's relay team members or else, the only people that are at the event that don't need a membership are volunteers. Everybody else, every member or every participant needs a membership. Packet pickup Friday is from 5 to 7. Or you can come Saturday from 5:30 until what the website might say. Does it say 6:45 or 6:30?
6:45
Okay.
at location.
Oh, at the race at Craigville Beach. So also 5 to 7. Here's a good one. At 6 o'clock. So if you come between 5 and 7 on Friday, at 6 o'clock is the race clinic. So that's done by Trish and Gary Cundiff from AquaSafe swim programs. Absolutely wonderful. They've both raced a Hyannis forever, for 20 plus years. So so a great resource if you are not familiar with the race. Come. Often after the clinic, there is a swim, so you can kind of swim around the buoys. It is at your own risk. Usually there's, you know, somebody else, Trish is out there. So every once in a while I'm out there, and our swim captain is typically out there. So there's usually a few people that are out in the water. It's kind of nice to be able to go around. It would just be the little tiny, we call them pilot buoys, not the big giant buoys. Won't be out there, or they'll blow away in the middle of the night. But the little buoys are out there, and it kind of helps you to go around the course. Let's see. The USAT memberships. I know these are such a pain, and there's not much we can do about it, but I'm sorry you guys have so much trouble with it. If you are under the age of 18, you do not need an adult to pick up your packet with you if you have, like, you just need some kind of ID. Assuming that when you registered, the adult signed the waiver for you, like you guys did the waiver, then you should be fine. If there is rain, hold on a second, Harry, I'll get your question. If there is rain, we still have a race. So you guys are triathletes. So we race in rain, we race in most other things. Not thunder, right? Not thunder or lightning, but everything else we can race in. All right, Harry, let's see. Harry raised his hand. Can you put a question in chat? That might be the easiest way to do it. You know what, let's save some of these questions until after, because now we're getting a little, we've got some people that are on that already got their what they need. I want them to be able to go. So let's do the next little section, and then we'll come back. Any questions haven't been answered, we'll answer those then, because I think we're going to end up answering some questions along the way. All right. I'm so glad though that you guys are so excited and have great questions. All right. Here we go. All right. So this is the course. Andy, do you want to chime in? You want to come sit next to me? There we go. All right. So
hello, everybody.
So this is Andy Shirting. Go ahead.
Yep, I was out there today, as Kathleen mentioned. The roads in the Hyannis and Nostaville area in the summertime, they get a lot of traffic. I think ever since COVID too, there's a lot of cars on the road just during the summertime. So I did notice spots where there were some potholes or ruts in the road. Many of them were filled by the DPW, but sometimes when they fill, they put the asphalt in it, it actually is a little bit of a rise. And so for a bicycle going over it, you may feel here and there these little bumps, as well as you want to kind of dodge a few potholes that are along the way. The nature of some of the potholes and where they are located, particularly on Main Street, Nostaville, South Main Street in Centerville, our staff can't fill them up. It's just logistically not possible. We do try to fill little ones, and we will try to spray paint as we can, but we have to just ask you this year, and hopefully this will be over in within a year or two when they finish this big water main repaving project that they've been doing. But just kind of stay alert as you go along. Nothing terrible, but there were a few. The first part of the course is great. I think it's just when you're in Osterville coming back toward Centerville, you'll be fine. One of the roads that many of our prior athletes know has been full of potholes in the past, Parker Road, is actually not too bad right now because they patched them. And the run course is beautiful because that side of Barnstable has already had a water main put in and the roads resurfaced. And then from a swim standpoint, the sprint swim is kind of a simple crescent, leaving the buoys on the right, and the Olympic swim is going to be similar to what you'll see when you look at the map on the athlete's guide. But we're going to make a few adjustments. You probably, if any of you watch Tour de France, you hear the phrase road furniture for things like rotaries and curbs and that sort of thing that the bicyclists have to deal with. Well, out there we have a little bit of water furniture that we're going to make some adjustments on.
All right. Anything else for the sprint course?
No, that's
Okay.
pretty much
No,
it
there's
for
one.
both courses.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
All right. So so one thing we want to note with the Olympic course, so you're doing essentially it's only one loop on the swim, but it's 2 loops on the bike. And if you can see my cursor, you go up around Bumps River Road. There's Parker Road that Andy was talking about that's actually not in bad shape. You come back around, and then as you're on Main Street, you're going to make a left onto Bay Lane. So that's kind of a sharp turn there. I think there's usually a police officer. There's our staff. There's a giant sign that Andy made that tells you to turn left. If you're an Olympic distance athlete, that's where you turn. So you'll turn left, you'll go down this nice neighborhood, and then you're going to merge with other Olympic athletes that are on their first loop or sprint athletes. And so you need to really be mindful. Sorry, I've lost my cursor. There we go. Be really mindful of that left turn. Again, there will be staff and volunteers, and they're all shouting at you, and that's what they're telling you to do. Make the left carefully. If you are coming down this way because you're on your first loop or you're a sprint athlete, you need to be mindful that all of this is going on here. So please stay to the right, where those coming from Bay Lane should stay a little more to the left until they can finally merge in. So we have had accidents there before, not many, but every once in a while someone's not paying attention, and then that's just a recipe for disaster. So so please be mindful of this little section.
There are not many signs on the course other than the directional turn signs when you come to each left or right on your bicycle as you're moving along. But please take note of the signs we do put out, because when we say caution slow down or caution steep hill, that's because there is a steep hill there, so just note those signs as you go by them.
Thanks. All right, one more thing about the bike course, then we'll switch to the run. Right about here, if you guys can see my cursor, right around mile 18 for the Olympic, there's a bit of actually a little farther over. There's a little bit of a hill, and there are cones there because everyone needs to go single file. Now, this is not our doing. This is the Barnstable Police have dictated this for many years, that that's to be a single lane. They feel that that's safer with the other cars that are on the road there. It is single file. Hyannis 1, we had a number of people, more so than usual, so that's why I bring it up, that went around the cones. That's not what you do, and that's how you get a penalty. So we will have someone there that's taking numbers. If you get stuck behind someone else going up the hill, well, that's the race. So if you know that's coming up, as we're saying, around mile 18, or around mile 9, if you're the sprint athlete, then you know it's coming up. So if you see somebody ahead of you that's going a lot slower than you are, then speed up and get ahead of them so you're not stuck with them on the hill. So that's the only thing that we can say about it. You've got to stay in that lane. It is single file. You may not go across the cones. Do not go around the cones. Do not go into traffic. Just go straight single file. So otherwise, do expect a penalty. It will be at least 2 minutes.
There are three spots where there is a heavy use of cones for your safety. The first one's at the end of Parker Road, which is about 5.5 miles in, if you look at the map that Kathleen has there, or 14.5. It's down at the end of Parker Road.
Oh, you're talking about here? Okay.
Yeah, so we cone that heavily for safety. The other place where we cone is at I guess it's about 7.5 for the sprint, 16.5 for the Olympic second loop. No, 16.5. So
Where are you? Up a little higher right here?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we will do actually a narrow one bike lane for about 20 yards, just so the police can deal with the traffic coming from a few different directions there.
Right. So if there's cones, you need to stay within them, otherwise expect a penalty. All right. So on the run course, this is easier. If you are a Olympic distance athlete, you're going to go around the same course that the sprint athletes do. Oh, wrong way. Sorry, I always do that. All right. Sorry. This way. We're going around this way. So you're going around clockwise. And then you're going to be turning around at the hill. There's a little U-turn. There's a sign there. There's a new water stop. If you didn't do Hyannis 1, then you will not be familiar with this water stop. So it is a water stop right at the turnaround. So you'll have something there. And then you go around and do that little lollipop again. And then you'll come down to the beach and finish. It is a beach finish. So it's what, 100 feet, 150 feet in the sand?
On the beach, yeah.
Yeah. So it's not a lot of beach, but it is there. So you do have some sand.
A caution will make, because there's been about, I don't know, we've been doing this Olympic race for 4 or 5 years now. And I think 3 or 4 times there's been an athlete who is running back on this on Craigville Beach Road here. If you look at the right along here, they're running this way and they just sort of forget and they start running up. Okay, they start running up here instead of going down to the U-turn turnaround. So Olympic athletes, keep in mind, you have to look for a U-turn turnaround to go up, because we don't want you to get a penalty.
All right. Thanks. All right. So for those that haven't raced Hyannis before, this is transition. We have the Olympic distance athletes are over here closer to the road. And then the sprint athletes are closer to the beach. So there is a divide there. There's 2 signs. Stay to your distance. That will make it easier later on. And then registration for anyone who's asking about registration. It's right here. Our tents look a little bit different now, but you get the idea. They're right here in front of the beach house, and that's on Friday from 5 to 7. And then race morning starting at 5:30 until 6:45. Make sure to give yourself plenty of time in transition. Every race we get somebody showing up at 6:45 and they have 2 minutes to set up their stuff in transition before they have to be on the beach. So allow yourself a little bit of time. Some people have asked about if you're a sprint distance athlete and everyone's off the bike course, so you're able to remove your bike from the transition, but you want to be able to leave the race before there's still people out on the run course. There is a parking lot that it's just off to the right of our screen here in this picture. Let me see, can you see my cursor? No, can't really tell me.
Nope.
So if you look at the blue and white tent, go all the way to the right. And it's there's a parking lot right beyond that green. Park there, because then you'll be able to make a right-hand turn out of there rather than being in the big parking lot, which is on the other side of the beach house. Anyone wants to park in this big parking lot that's over here, it just goes on forever. Feel free to park there. You are kind of stuck there until closer to the end of the race.
But Olympic athletes would not have a problem even if you're super fast. So go ahead and park on the beach side if you're an Olympic athlete.
Right, so park over that way. Yep. Awards will be right around here. And then we'll also have those the cold water plunge guys will be in the same little area. near registration. That's where food is. What? Okay. The finish line, you can kind of see it right there. So the finish line runs along the beach, right along the transition area. And then let's see, you guys usually would like to know where bike in, bike out, all that fun stuff. Whoops, sorry about that. So bike out is over here on the left, left part of my screen. Run out is out that way also. Run in kind of comes in the same area, but your bike in is over here, and your swim in, you're going to be coming. I'll show you another screen in just a second. But you're going to be running along this green fencing, might be a different color, and you're running into transition here from the swim. So you've got swim in this way, and you have bike in here, and then everything else is happening over there. All right. When we were talking about the swim course, Andy said that there is some water furniture out, or swim furniture out on the in the course. So we'll be a little more creative about how we make that Olympic course work. Sprint course is going exactly as you see it. We stay as close to the shore as we can, just makes it a little more comfortable for you in the water. All right, and then for the Olympic athletes, this is what you're going to see is these yellow triangular buoys, and you're keeping them on your right shoulder. So so the course is clockwise. Here it is from your view. And of course we have lots of lifeguards out on the water, and we hope it's this smooth. If you are a sprint distance athlete, you're looking for, oh, sorry, go ahead.
There. For the Olympic athletes, those triangular buoys are buoys that you will turn around. We will also have buoys out there that are cylindrical. They just they point up. They're similar to no wake or swim buoys you might see at a beach, except that they are very yellow, just as yellow as that. And those are buoys that you use for sighting as you swim straight until you get to the next turn, which will be at a triangular buoy.
Okay, so let me just there we go. All right. So oh, see, your photo has it. So there's a triangle buoys at your turns, and those are the tops of the cylinder type buoys along the straightaway. Does that help?
Yep.
That work? All right, there you go. All right, and so then we're back to the sprint. Those are orange, and you're going clockwise. And there we are. You can see it from that angle. And then we're talking about that's the swim finish. So you're going to come run out of the water. You're going to go through this red arch, so it's easy to spot that. And you're going to run along the fence until you get into transition. Right. You're looking for flags like this for any of the outs. That's kind of it's like a limey green. Actually, I think the new ones are a little more green, but either way, if it's green, that means that's good. That's where you're going out. So there is a bike out, and there's also a run out. If you have not done triathlon before, then you might not know, you cannot ride your bike in transition. You have to run or walk your bike until you get to, there's a bike mount sign right there. It's a little yellow sign on the road. That's where you'll mount your bike. And then the same thing for the way back. So these guys are all, mounting their bikes right here. So there's somebody saying mount your bikes, they get on and off they go. And then they dismounted out here, and now they're running their bikes in, and there's the bike in sign. So there's a run in, bike in. I don't think we have a swim in. I don't know. But anyway, if it's red, that means that you're coming in. If it's green, you're going out. Race numbers. We are not doing race tats this year. We went back to the markers after listening to everyone's comments about the tats. Markers just seem like they're easier for everybody. So we'll mark your arms and your legs. That would be our great Falmouth Rotary volunteers. We'll also give you a sticker for your helmet. It goes right in the front of your helmet. And then the bike frame sticker. You can either put it right here on your crossbar, or you can put it on the down post of your seat. As long as we can see it, that's fine. You must wear your bib number. We'll also give you a running bib. You must wear that when you're running. You can either, if you have a race belt, you can wear it, of course, or we'll give you safety pins if you want to use that instead. And we do have timing chips that are not disposable. You will return those when you go through the finish line. And that goes on your ankle. There we go. We have post-race yoga. After usually Terry's there after sprint and Olympic, but we'll announce it. We'll make sure to announce it so that way you'll know. It's just nice stretching on the beach. You don't need a mat. If you have a towel, great. And if you don't, she just works with it. Awards, of course, are 10 and 10:30 as listed here. And then those cold plunge guys will be there as well. So if you want to do a cold plunge, you're welcome to do that. We usually get lots of great signs and enthusiastic spectators. Keep in mind, we need some volunteers. So if you want to volunteer and have a good time that way, then by all means, in the chat right up towards the top is the link to register as a volunteer, or you can contact Lori. Her email is also at the top of the chat. All right. So before we move on to questions from new triathletes, let's scan through. Andy, would you help me with that and scan through some of the other questions we haven't already answered?
I think the swim waves, you may want to address that will be announced soon, right?
Yes, so swim waves, I can't do swim waves until registration closes. So that's a good segue. Registration closes tomorrow at noon. So if you have friends that were planning on racing and want the better pricing, then they'll want to sign up online before tomorrow at noon. After that, they can come race morning. They can come to packet pickup Friday 5 to 7, but it is $10 more than what you see on the website. So we take Venmo, we take cash. At the race site, we do not take credit cards.
Okay. No bike check-in on Friday. You can pick up your packet, but you bring your bike with you on Saturday morning. And check in. You don't have to check in and pick up your package, you already have it, but then you'll show your credentials to the security as you enter the transition area.
Right. So that's a good question. So so the next section, just to clarify, the next thing that we do here in this athletes meeting is to talk about just triathlon in general and what to expect. So so some of this might kind of cross over a little bit. So Andy mentioned security. If you already have your packet because you picked it up on Friday night, then you're just taking your bike and all of your stuff and going into transition. You'll need to have your race number already on your bike. And then you'll need to show your bib number when you go into transition. And then you can get, someone will write on your arm and number you and all of that. But it does save you a little bit of time because there's usually a line race morning because we have about 700 athletes. So everyone needs their stuff in such a short amount of time.
There's a question that's been seconded about sand in the transition area. A few years ago, we purchased the biggest possible leaf blower that a landscaper can buy, and we'll be going around the transition area on Friday during the day, working on that. We're trying to make it as clean as we can. I don't recall anyone slipping on the sand.
No. And because you can't ride your bike in transition, that's one less thing you have to worry about with sand. Okay, Kristen, you asked about how the swim heats work. I'll explain that in this next little section. But if I forget, throw it back in chat for me. All right, so we covered.
There's a question about signing up for a relay. A team is not signed up yet. You want to answer that one later?
Sure.
How to sign up?
Okay,
we'll do that. For family parking,
the big parking lot.
I think on the beach side makes sense. That's the biggest parking lot. So you do not leave bikes overnight on Friday, and then we can answer this in the next section about talking about transition areas and what they are and how that all works. Thank you, David. Laura wants to know about swim caps. Yes, you'll get swim caps.
Yep, and I can talk about that in just a minute.
Okay.
Carrie had asked a question earlier about being able to get out early, and we talked about the parking lot across the street. from the beach house. When does that fill up? It's been a long time since I've looked over there.
Which part of it?
The Maria Schreiber parking across the street.
I don't know if it ever does it?
Yeah,
It-
it does.
yeah.
Yeah, at some point it seems like officer is
Sends them back to
sends
the
them
big
out.
lot.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I wouldn't show up at 6:30, Harry. So if I would imagine you're probably still good by 6:15 maybe.
I should mention Barnstable residents can park in the Barnstable resident parking lot, which is the next beach over. It's a very short $100 walk. So that's something to keep in mind, anybody who lives in the town of Barnstable. Let's see.
Okay, so Nate, when I answered that question for Harry, that was for you too. Park across the street.
Oh, there were no jellyfish today. Someone asked about
yeah.
jellyfish.
Okay.
No jellyfish to be seen.
All right. All right. David, we're going to talk about where transition all that stuff in just a little bit. So hang on a second. And Noah, we said supply swim caps, hydration, vests allowed for a yes, no problem. And you answered the jellyfish. So we're like scanning through all of these. Start time. Start. It's a Megan. It's a modified time trial start. The swim. So not everyone starts at one time. That was like Ironman used to do that, and they had all sorts of stuff. We do a modified swim start, and this is good for anyone, whether you're a new triathlete or not, because this is, I think, kind of unique to our race. We don't just do a time trial start where you just have a long stream of people that are going in. We found that for our lifeguards, that's hard for them to be able to see who's really maybe having some issues. So we modify it. So we have swim waves based on category or age groups that might have 50, 60 people in it. And then within those, they're doing a time trial. So we'll go, okay, the next 8 athletes. And so they'll go in and we'll count to 10, and then the next 8 athletes. That way the water's pretty clear for you. It's not like you're going in with like a mass start. But for the lifeguards, they can see those kind of like groups of people going through. And if somebody's really struggling, they're going to be sliding back, and that will be easier for them to see. So we call it a modified time trial start.
Time limits. We do have some races during the season that have time cutoff limits that either imposed, usually they're because they're imposed on us by the permitting authorities. Hyannis doesn't impose any time limit per se. However, the people who are really in charge of this race are the police officers. And if, let's say someone has a problem with their bike, it's a mechanical, and they can't having trouble fixing it, but they think they can fix it, and they want to get going, and an hour's gone by or something like that, and they're like, there's a point where the police will say it's not safe to continue to try to hold these roads open. I don't know if that's happened more than once or twice over the 6 or 7 years.
Rarely.
But so that is theoretically possible. But we've had some Olympic competitors finish. Gosh,
They've been out there for hours.
4
Yeah. So you're probably fine. The other question Lucas asked about transition opens at 5:30 on Saturday. They are not there is staff on the bike course, but they are not there to help you with your bike in any way. You got to make sure that you've got what you need, you know how to change a tire if you have to. Otherwise, I think last year actually we had one of our staff members picked up a cyclist that had, some kind of mechanical, and their race was over, but at least they got a ride back. So we won't leave you out there forever. All right. All right. So we're going to go on to our next section, which is if you're new to triathlon or you just want to stay on, you've got nothing else to do, we're happy to have you here. So, so let me share my screen again, and we'll go through some basic fundamentals of triathlon and our races. You'll have an opportunity to ask more questions. I know we had a few questions that we didn't answer because they kind of fall into this next section. So if after we're done with that and we still haven't really answered your question, if you wouldn't mind asking again, that would be appreciated.
And we're celebrating an anniversary of sorts with this race between Kathleen and I. We will either raced the Hyannis race, one of the two during the year, or in the directors for 60 races now.
Yeah, because remember we have two Hynuses, Hyannis 1, Hyannis 2. So so it works. So 60. All right, here we go. Again, here's the athlete's guide. A lot of questions are answered right there, so please jot that down if you haven't already. All right. Okay, so some questions about transition area. This is a typical transition area. If you look over towards the very right of the screen, that sign says Olympic athletes to the left. So this is the bike racks, the big long row for the Olympic distance athletes. We fit 6 to 8 bikes per rack. I think for this one we have, we'll probably be okay with 6 bikes per rack.
Yeah.
That means 3 bikes on one side, 3 bikes on the other side. And I'll show you a slide on kind of how you do that to make everybody fit without worrying about knocking over someone else's bike or getting in each other's way. Okay, so that was the Olympic sign over here. The sprint sign's right there. And so 2/3 of the transition are for sprint athletes and 1/3 is for Olympics, just how everyone has signed up. You can see the beach over there. You see in the distance, this is the finish line. So hopefully I think I've got another screen that will kind of show you end up going around the transition area. It's all coned. There's people there telling you where to go. So it would be hard to get lost there. All right. So when you go into transition, Andy was talking about when you go through security. So actually that brings up 2 things. So I'm gonna tell you about this here and what this guy's doing. But when we're talking about security, questions come up from new athletes about, oh, what do I do with my stuff? And is my stuff safe? You know, do I have to bring everything with me when I go on the bike and all of that? This is a secure area. We have lots of staff members that are all around transition. You can't get in or out of transition without having your race number on you. Usually it's on your arm. So everyone is checking for that when you go through. It's not like a free-for-all where, you know, grandma and, you know, Uncle Bob can come in and who knows, you know, someone else's Uncle Bob might not be, you know, the best person in transition.
You got to watch out for grandma.
Right, yeah, grandma too. So so only athletes are allowed in transition. We have never had an issue with anything ever being stolen. Just, you know, don't turn around and bring a lot of cash. I mean, why would you do that, right? But you know, I've for years you know, brought my phone and all my belongings, and I put them right by my transition area. And I'm going to show that to you in a second because it is important that all of your stuff stays close, otherwise it gets lost. All right, so this little security checkpoint, for one thing, this volunteer has checked to make sure that this is an athlete that's coming in, right? And he's checking for bar plugs. So if you see, he's got his hand, he's actually doing 2 things. He's got his fingers right here. So he's making sure that there's plugs on the end of that bike. And when you have the ram horn bike handlebars, those in particular are the ones that are most concerning if you crash. So those are the ones that can go into your abdomen, and it's the most awful looking thing ever. You don't want it. So you want to make sure you have bike plugs on. We do have some. We have C Sports is our bike support. They have been supporting our races for many years, and they're terrific. Sometimes they run out of bike plugs because people didn't check them before they came. So if you want to make sure that you're all set, you've got to, you know, do that before. You will not be able to race if you don't have something kind of blocking any hole that might be here at the end.
C Sports is bringing 3. I just spoke to the owner that 2 hours ago. They're bringing 3 bicycle pumps.
Yeah.
So
for anyone that came to Falmouth,
you don't have to bring a bicycle pump. There are some athletes who like to bring their own bicycle pump, but
yeah.
Or at least some athletes will pull their bike off the car and pop up the tires right there and then bring it in. But
yeah, anyway, but at least we have that, and they can help you with minor stuff. All right, so this volunteer is checking for the bike plugs, and then he's also checking. You see, he's done this before. He's got his finger right here, and he's checking the brakes. So we want to make sure that if you're going down a hill, you're going to be able to stop. So they're going to check brakes, make sure those work fine, and they're going to check the bike plugs, and they're going to check to make sure that you have a race number, that you're an athlete, you should be coming in. So you'll come in. On your way out, we will check for your bike number. We'll make sure that your bike number that will be placed on your down tube, or excuse me, on your tube here or the down tube there, matches what's on your arm or your running bib. It's got to be you removing your bike. No one else can do it. Even after the race, every once in a while, I'll be in transition after a race, and there's like a whole family in there. I'm like, how'd you guys get in here? So only athletes in. Even after the race, you got all your stuff in, you can get all your stuff out. So no one is going to help you in transition. Another athlete might, you might ask for help from another athlete, but only athletes in transition. So, all right. There we are, C Sports. So, so they're great. They're gonna help if you need it. If you need bike plug, the bar plugs, you don't have any, then that volunteer is going to say, go over to C Sports and get some there, and then they'll take care of you.
Yeah, they do not do a complete tune-up of your bike. They have a lot of people who will be coming over, and they can quickly try to help you with an issue that you have. There's noise going on with the bike, or something's rubbing, that sort of thing. But it'd be best for you to get your bike tuned up before the race happens.
Right. Let's make sure it's all working, right? Okay, so we're talking about transition and how these bikes, are on the bike rack, right? So this bike is sitting by the seat. So that's how, so you take the bike and you tuck it under the rack and then you pull it back up. So that's how we've done here. It's kind of gone under and up. And that's how it sits. When you're ready to use your bike, you just kind of do all that in reverse. And I think the next slide will show, like, all of your stuff is going to sit to the right of your front tire. I know it looks like you should put all your stuff back here where there's lots of room, but that's not the USAT rule. For whatever reason, they want all of your stuff to go right over here. And if everyone does it, there's plenty of room for everybody. So this bike is facing this way. The next bike should be facing in the other direction. And then the next bike is going to be facing this way again. So sometimes I'll go through transition. I'll say every other. That's what I'm talking about. Make your bike go every other direction. And that way we can fit at least 6 bikes on the rack. Sometimes I'll go through transition before the race, and I'll see someone just like spread all of their stuff out. And then those people that showed up last are like frantically trying to find a place to put their bike. So if you could just be mindful and keep your stuff in your little section, and that gives room for somebody else. It's not like a school bus where you're trying to spread out, when you're a kid and you spread out and hope nobody else gets in your seat. In this case, we all have to work together. All right. So the angle is kind of funny, but you can see the bike wheel here, and then all this stuff is to the right. So they have this looks like a base thing, right? Mm-hmm. So they have a half towel right beside their bike, and that's where the helmet is, bike shoes. Everything that you need should be lined up right on that little towel, not like a bath towel that's spread out that you don't have enough room for that, but 2 by 3 feet. I'm trying to think like how big. You give them the visual, like a
maybe 1.5 by
2.5 by. Okay, all right. So even small.
Sounds like it might be a little bit. Just check. Please don't spread your stuff all over the place. It's not fair to the others.
Yeah. So one thing that we see a lot of in every race, I get an email, or Lori gets an email afterwards saying, I lost my helmet. And normally what happens is after the bike, the person has taken off their stuff and they kind of threw down their helmet, not realizing that it now bounced off somewhere else. And then if it's not right by your stuff, somebody else might end up kicking it by accident. So, or it gets jumbled up in other people's things. So if you keep all of your stuff on your own little towel, then it's a lot easier to keep track of it.
Yeah, and keep it close. I've chased my bike shoes several aisles over because I think someone kicked them during a race.
Yeah, so if you keep it on your towel, and you'll have better luck. I didn't realize I used this photo. Sorry, guys. I wanted one that was a little more direct. Bike bottles. always have a bike bottle on your bike, even if you think, oh, I won't need it. You might always have one. I usually carry two just in case I drop one of them. And I always have a bike bottle in transition that I can squirt. Someone mentioned something about sand. We have the little kiddie pools when you come out of the swim and you're running along the beach and you're in sand, and then you get into the pavement of the transition area. There are kiddie pools that are there. I personally don't put my feet in that because I'll just like splat everywhere. So so usually I go back to my transition area and I take a bike bottle that I have specifically for that purpose, and I squirt my feet, and then I just take my little towel and do a quick dry. That does take a little bit of time, but I don't like
But we do have kiddie pools because some people like.
Right. A lot of people like the kiddie pools. It just grosses me out. So so it's up to you. If you want to use a kiddie pool, by all means use it, even after that comment. Otherwise, just bring something. Just bring like something you can squirt that you can squirt on your feet, and that seems to work pretty well. All right. We mentioned before, bikes cannot be ridden in transition. So remember, bikes, you walk in or run, walk in, walk out, run in, run out. Only get on your bike when you're outside of the transition area on the road, and there's signs that will tell you mount, dismount. Something else about bikes, and Andy taught me this. When in the morning, when you're setting up all of your stuff, which is going to take you probably a little longer than you expect, take your bike and take it for a quick spin. Just go down the road and back, just to make sure that everything is working fine. And you actually have a little hanger, right? But some people will just throw, like, if you have a wetsuit, throw that over where your bike is sitting on your, like, in the on the bike rack. Put something over that so someone realizes that that's your space right there. So like I throw a little towel or my wetsuit, I just kind of throw it over where I like right here. I'll just kind of set it there, and that way people know that, oh, there was a bike, there's a bike there. Otherwise, sometimes you come back and it's like someone didn't realize that your stuff was right there.
I've at times had a clothes hanger, the kind that you get at the dry cleaners, that has paper in between it, and I write a little note explaining that this is my space. But that's just me.
So either way, just something so that way people know, like, oh yeah, that space is taken. But it's really important for you to get out, make sure your bike's working, try your brakes, try the different gears. And then when you bring it back to transition, put it in an easy gear. So I found, and I have been guilty of it, you go out before the race and you test your bike, and you're on a little bit of a downhill, so you're in a harder gear. And then you go to start off the bike in the race after you've been swimming and you're already kind of tired. And then also you're in this hard gear, and that's harder to do. So just bring your gears down, make it easy. So that way, when you're starting the bike, you're starting off kind of nice and easy, and then you can gear up as you go along. All right, so let's skip over these next couple ones because we talked about that. All right, so we're talking about mount and dismount. This is, see, there's the red flag, so you're coming in, and this is at the end of the bike course. So they got off their bikes here at the dismount, and now they're going to run their bikes into transition. And there's definitely people here in this area that are going to remind you, dismount. You've got to dismount before you get to the sign.
And that's a good time to mention. You see the two ladies with the red t-shirts, actually another one behind them. Volunteers like to be thanked. They do not like to be yelled at. Yeah. And the yell at is very, very rare, and it's usually like the elites who think they're something special.
Some elites are special, but yeah, so please just thank the volunteers as you go through. If you can just think about it, they really appreciate it, and we love our volunteers. So that would be great. All right, so here they are, different angle. You see everyone's running in. Sometimes they have bike shoes, sometimes they have sneakers. Doesn't matter, whatever works for you. And then that's it. That's the end of the race. So we do have Subway sandwiches, and then we have other prepackaged foods they'll be where you came to pick up your packet. All of that changes over to food and drink. And so you're free to come and get, and get any food. Food is for athletes and volunteers. And then we'll do the awards and yoga and the plunge and all of that, fun stuff. So now let's go to questions.
All right.
Yeah.
Want to start with the red swim camp?
Oh, yeah.
All
Oh, so I can't believe I forgot that. Okay. So, some of you might be anxious in the water. It's not new. It's not just for new triathletes. We have athletes that have been racing for years, and the swim is just always gets them. We have red swim caps just for that. If you're either anxious in the water, you're like, I didn't, swim as much as I wanted to, and now here I am, and boy, that looks like a long swim. Ask for a red cap when you pick up your packet. I have red caps. I will be at the swim start, as will Lori. Lori looks the opposite of me. She's tall and beautiful and red hair. And so you'll see her or you'll see me at the swim start. And if you say, you can have a red cap, no problem. We'll give you a red cap. Or you can get it at a packet pickup. And that just helps our lifeguards to know to keep extra eyes on you. So if you also have a medical condition, at least a couple of times a year, we end up with some participants that are pregnant. Please ask for a red cap. It's just nice to kind of keep your belly a little safe. So we'll keep an extra eye on you, or sometimes people have, asthma or something like that. And if the lifeguards know that because you're wearing a red cap, we'll make sure that you're okay in the water.
But to fully answer the chat question, you will receive a swim cap. That color of the swim cap will correspond with when you'll be starting the race.
Right. Sorry. So I didn't even see the chat. So to elaborate on what Andy was saying, yes, we have the red swim caps. Those are great. Tomorrow, once registration closes, I will go through the participant list and the categories of everybody, whether it's age group or Clydesdale, Athena, elites, what have you, and create those swim waves. Your color will correspond with those waves unless you have a red swim cap, and that's fine too. We normally end up with 100 to 150 athletes that are in the newcomers swim wave. We call them newbies or first timers. We call them first timers. So we kind of split you up, but you're all in one. You start off all in one wave on the beach, and then we kind of divide you out a little bit, so that way you're not all swimming at one time. So a lot of usually those are all like one big swim, one swim color. So if you see like a sea of blue swim color, swim caps, don't worry, you're not all going in at one time.
And friends and family.
Friends and family often depends on my mood at the moment. They'll either have a different swim cap or they'll have the same swim cap as the newbies, because essentially you're going around the same time. They're always at the end of the swim waves, so that way you don't have like some yahoo that's been swimming since he was 5 swimming over you because he feels you're going slow. So your newbies and the friends and family swim waves are always last. It helps our lifeguards to just focus on you, and you don't have to worry about anyone coming up behind you. And what we found with that wave, during all those people, is everyone is just as anxious, and so people don't like to touch each other in the water in that way. In the age group waves, it's whatever. People knock you, swim over you, whatever.
Yeah. Well, friends and family and newcomers are also handled differently from the category and the awards standpoint. You want to outline that?
Sure.
Okay.
So we'll start with friends and family. Friends and family is a non-compete wave. It's like, hey, we've got a few of us and we're all different age groups and we're just swimming. We're just out here doing this race just to have a good time. We're not looking for awards. So they're not including the awards in awards, because they're not really, I think you end up getting a time, but it's supposed to be non-compete. First timers, you compete with other first timers, not people in your age group. So if you're 35, you can win a first timers award, but you wouldn't win an award for that 35 to 39-year-old age group. So hopefully that helps. Oh, also speaking of different categories and things like that, this year we started a non-binary category. So you have male, female, or non-binary. Anyone who identifies as non-binary in their registration will swim. Those awards are per age group also. So it's let's say we're talking about 35. So 35 to 39-year-olds, male, female, non-binary. And then that's across the board for all categories,
Okay.
including overall.
Running through these, hydration vests are allowed if that's how you would like to hydrate. Practice with it beforehand, though. Maybe go for a bike ride or a run tomorrow or the next day and just see if it works for you. To know on that. The aqua bike participants, how your time is taken when your bicycle is over. As soon as you cross that timing mat, after you've dismounted from your bike, your time is captured. Then you can put on your flip flops, or if you want to look real, like you may want to put on your sneakers and just go over to the finish line and run across.
Yeah, I do aqua bike a lot, and I
Get-
put on my flip flops
Get
when I run across.
your medal.
Right, you'll get we don't have medals. we have finisher bottles, so you'll get your finisher bottle, and you'll give up your timing chip. Just make sure if you're in the aqua bike categories, and you for whatever reason decide you don't want to go through the finish line, you don't have to. You can just go around the other side, and get a water bottle. And just give them your timing chip. So the timing chips, if you don't return a timing chip, it's like $200. But for the timing company, so better to return it.
There's actually someone brought up a good question, which we haven't completely addressed here, about wondering, like, does he have to bring separate bike shoes? You can complete the race in whatever way it works for you. There are some people who, after they finish their swim, they put on their sneakers, the shoes they're using for running, and they have pedals on their bike that allow them to just pedal the bike with sneakers on.
Yeah.
And you just keep the sneakers for the rest of the race. You will see some athletes who will come to their bicycle and they'll put on bicycle shoes. And you'll even see some athletes who come to their bicycle and they'll start running toward the entrance of the bike leg, pushing their bicycle in bare feet. And what they do is they hop on the bike and they slip into their bicycle shoes as they're cycling in the early stage.
I would not recommend doing
Yeah,
that.
one step at a time, everybody.
That's yeah.
But,
So but that brings up a really good point. So and I say this now over and over, only because I made the mistake that Andy's just talking about. I was finishing a bike on a race, and the guy in front of me stepped out of his shoes while still riding, like kind of like right near the end before I got off. And I was like, oh, that's great. I should do that. Don't do that. So it was not good, but everyone else outside got a really good laugh out of it. So but that brings up, don't do anything new on race morning besides doing the race itself. If you haven't been wearing a wetsuit, don't wear it race morning. If you plan on wearing a wetsuit race morning, which if the water's 71 degrees, you don't really need to for heat, but maybe you like the buoyancy. If you plan on wearing a wetsuit, make sure you're wearing it right, like now, like tomorrow's Wednesday. Wear it Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday to get used to it, because if nothing else, the wetsuit is the most troublesome part of any equipment that you have during a triathlon. It's the one thing that's going to make you panic in the water. It
could make you panic.
It's the one thing that would, if it right. So it tends to sit very tight against your throat and your chest. And if you're used to it, it's kind of like wearing a seatbelt. If you're used to that constriction, it's no problem. But if you're not used to it, and then you're going to swim in your very first race or one of your first races, you're just kind of compounding the issue. So don't wear a wetsuit if you have not been wearing it. If you have been wearing it, great, no problem. But same thing with food. Don't eat food you haven't been eating the night before for dinner, because that might ruin your race the next day. So anything you do, just do whatever it is you've been doing during training. And then you can do that on race day. And if you find that didn't work on race day, then when you're doing your training for your next race, then make adjustments then. And that you'll be ready for that next race.
Okay, there is vegetarian food at the food tent and vegetarian Subway sandwiches.
Right, so Subway has, we have veggie with cheese, then we have just veggies, so we can do the vegetarian and the vegan, and then some of the,
Fruit
and
peanut butter.
yeah, we have, right, peanut butter and bananas and oranges, and then some of the packaged stuff. You kind of just go through it and find what works for you.
Okay. There is staff and often a police officer or a flag person at every single turn on the course. There'll also be signs as well. So there's a lot of people out there. I think we have this race could have anywhere between 600 and 800 participants, and there's over 100 volunteers sometimes, and volunteer staff members, police, that sort of support. So ratio is pretty good if we do a private school. Anyways,
Okay. You have another question? Because I've got one I want to answer.
all right, go ahead.
Okay, so Kristen, thanks for your message. I'm gonna say it out loud because there might be others in the same position. If you wanted to switch your category, maybe it's from sprint to aquabike or from Olympic to sprint or whatever, you can do it in your participant account up until noon tomorrow. After that, the race closes online. And so, so you won't be able to make that change then. And I've already printed everything out. And so it won't be helpful to you. So tonight, if you have any change to make, if you find your confirmation email, there's like a big button on there. It says that go to my account, go to your account. If you click on that, if you've created a participant account, you can click on that, and then you can make any of those changes in your registration. If you are having trouble with that, I put Lori's email at the very beginning of this chat, and go ahead and send her a note and she can help you with it.
There's a question about bringing equipment into the transition area. Good time to mention no e-bikes are allowed at this
that's a good
race.
question.
We should
Yeah,
mention that
yeah.
earlier.
Even if it's not on, right? We don't know e-bikes.
And as far as equipment goes, some people at triathlons would like to bring their own little bucket of maybe like a kiddie pan that they'll fill with water and put next to their bike. Please don't do that. It's a hazard for others. Same thing goes with buckets that people sit on. They turn it over and sit on it, or stools and that sort of thing. That's a little bit much. Also, Emma was wondering about being able to change clothes. Many racers will say do the swim in their swimsuit, and then they'll put on a pair of like shorts or a pair of something that's got a little sturdiness to them for the bike ride and maybe for the run. There was a day when nudity was allowed in the transition area. Those days have gone by. So as far as changing goes, unless you know how to do the towel trick.
Oh, that gets dangerous too.
And that takes a lot of time. So
Yeah.
I think it's usually better to, it's a relatively short race. So you're a little wet on the bicycle ride and the run. You may not even notice it.
Yeah, you don't notice it. Chris, you asked a question about first you asking for a military discount. Thank you for your service. I believe either I sent you an email earlier today or I sent it to Lori, so she would or I passed on your email so that way she can answer you. So you might have that in your inbox now. We do have a military discount, so she can provide that for you. For the relays, you're right. So the first person, the team captain, signs up as a relay team. They pay for everybody. Then through that process, you'll be able to send out an invite to the other members of your team. And that way everyone signed up.
Okay.
And everyone needs a USA team member.
There was a question about wearing the run bib on the bike ride. The only time you have to wear your run bib is when you're running. However, some people do elect to put it on for the bike ride. I would suggest that you turn it around for the bike ride so it's behind you, because every race, as I'm driving along the road after the race, I see run
Someone's been
little bibs on the side of the road that have flown off as someone's cycling. So it's But I also realize a lot of people don't own race belts. That's a little triathlon gizmo
running.
that's been invented over the last 5 or 10 years, where you can have your bib onto a run belt and you just grab the belt as you're heading off on the run. And you need to, if you don't have that, you need to pin the race bib. And so we understand that. So,
Right. Can I answer that? So I was just thinking about pinning the bib. So the one time that you don't want to be pinning your bib, or you need to plan ahead, is if you're not wearing a wetsuit and you have a bib pinned to your shirt, you're going to lose it in the water. I've seen that a few times.
Yeah.
So if that's the case for you, then bring another shirt that you're going to throw on over. Just make sure that it's large enough that you can get it on a wet body. Usually I say practice that beforehand. Come out of the shower and then try to put that shirt on and see if it works, because sometimes like it ends up getting stuck on skin. So that's one way around the bib, putting on the bib only for the run if you're not wearing a wetsuit, which would then cover it all up.
Next question has to do about the timing on the swim. And we may not have mentioned, but you'll see in the athlete's guide, if you go to the where it all goes, I think, section, that you're going to be wearing you're going to have wrapped around your ankle a timing chip. That timing chip is going to record when you go in the water, and when you come out of the water, when you head out of transition, pushing your bicycle before you get on it. After you've gotten off your bicycle, you cross the timing mat soon after that. And then they'll record you once again when you're heading out on your run, as well as at the finish line. So you'll get all of your splits and be able to analyze them in detail, which a lot of hardcore
Some people do
triathletes
that. So the way that records is a timing mat. So you'll hear it beep when you go across it. If you go around it every once in a while, I'll see someone, like maybe there was like other people, let's say in the run, and there's like other people that were also on the mat, and so they went around those people, but then they went around the mat as well, and then their time wasn't recorded. So just make sure that you run over the mat, whether it's the swim, bike, or any of those, you'll hear the beep.
Yeah. Elise, you're wondering about how many participants. I think we're approaching 700 who have registered. With good weather in the forecast, we're probably going to get a lot of late signups and even race weekend signups. But then also sometimes 5 to 10% of the field doesn't show up for whatever reason. And so we'll see. But even though it's a lot of people, we try to manage the race in such a way so that you don't feel that, oh my God, there's all these people around it, and we'll do the best we can about it.
Okay, so somebody had asked.
There's several relay questions, and I'm wondering if they'd be best handled if those individuals, if you don't mind, send an email to Lori at neevents.com. She's at her email address is at the very top of this chat, and she can maybe address those directly.
Are they like kind of general?
Or they're kind of like, can I sign up, and then to come later? And
I already that one. Yeah. But yeah, that's how. So anyone who's planning on signing up for relay and hasn't yet, that's the captain signs up the team and then invites the other members. There's like a little link.
Yeah. Corey, I'm with you, even though it might be 8 in the morning, and it'd be nice if there was an adult beverage tent at the race, but we have to deal with the permitting authorities, and that's not an option. However, there are liquor stores in the area.
Oh,
there are bars.
No, we cannot condone there.
All right.
We can't. Yeah, you can do whatever you want, but we can't tell you to do that.
A backpack or a bag is allowed in transition. Just please try to place it in such a way that it doesn't interfere with other competitors. I usually bring a backpack in myself, and instead of putting it right under the bike, I'll often look for a place that's not in anybody's way. It might be up against a fence, might be at the end of a bike rack or something along those lines to place the backpack.
Okay. David, you had asked about transitions and all of that, but that was like way earlier on. So I'm hoping that we've answered those questions for you now. If not, I'm going to put this in the chat for everybody. USAT has this great website called mytimetotry.com. And it answers so many basic questions about triathlon. I mean, obviously it's not going to be for our race specifically, but it's all the stuff about transition and how the idea of transition is that's where you're transitioning for each of the different legs of the race that you're doing and how all of that works.
Okay, down to just a couple questions. One has to do with headphones during the bike and the run. There are USA Triathlon, that's our governing body, if you haven't figured that out by now, and we follow all the regulations, and it's important from an insurance standpoint and from a safety standpoint as well. And one thing that USA Triathlon deems is unsafe, and Kathleen and I agree with it, is if someone is listening to music, they are less aware of what's around them. They may not hear someone shouting that they're about to pass them, or they may not hear a police officer's warning,
Or a car.
No headphones are allowed at the races. And we even have a staff member at the entrance to the run who she's little, but she's fast, and she'll run after people.
She will, she'll chase you down. So, and there is a time penalty. So if you are caught wearing headphones on the bike or the run, it's a 2-minute penalty every time we catch you. So, so please don't do it. The restroom was another question. Restroom situation. So we have 10 porta potties that will be delivered on Friday. And then the beach house has, I don't know, probably another, I think in the women's room, there must be another 10 there. And then of course the men's room. So there's lots of bathrooms. The porta potties end up being positioned kind of in front of the entrance to where all the other like bathrooms are. So I always check behind the porta potties. There's like a little ramp. And if you go up the ramp, you might be able to have like a nice clean restroom right there. And beat the line for the porta potties, but there's usually plenty of them. Thank you, Andy.
But also the restrooms are open.
Yeah,
okay, you did.
Exactly what I was saying. So Andy just put the athlete's guide in the chat. Traffic.
The traffic is not heavy as far as motor vehicle traffic during the bike. It's impossible for the police to keep all the cars off the road. And that's difficult, but they really minimize it a great deal. As far as traffic with other cyclists, it kind of depends where in the race you are. We try to stretch it out as much as we can so that everyone has some space around them on the bike and can kind of move ahead or be passed safely. But there are little bulges that sort of like happen in the race. So if you are in one of those, just be patient. Eventually we'll thin out.
Good. Yeah. Oh, wait, I've got another question, Dominic. I'd missed this before. Sorry about that. USAT just banned those the handlebar mirrors. And they didn't really give a full explanation as to why. But they're banned. So so please do not take off your bike mirror. And if you have bike plugs, use them. Otherwise, I would go right to the C Sports tent and get that plugged before you try to go into transition, because they'll end up sending you over there anyway. But you would definitely want to plug that. So if that helps for anybody else, no mirrors on your bike. I think USAT finds that it's not fair because then you can kind of see who's behind you. I don't know that we had an official at Hyannis won because it was a state championship. And so the USAT official was there and it was like making people tape up their mirror.
I'm sure that's it. That's the reason. So there are some triathletes, not here, this is more in other parts of the country, that are really good at listening carefully for the sound of a motorcycle behind them. And if they have a mirror to take a look too and see an official is coming up to check to make sure they are.
Oh, that makes more sense, right? It's for the official.
Drafting on a bike. For those who aren't familiar, you get a small, it's not necessarily small, it can be 10 or 20% advantage if you are riding close to the bicycle that's in front of you. And that's not legal because it's not fair. You can also get an advantage if you are swimming close to the side or behind someone else. That is legal. That is
That's
allowed.
totally fair. I would totally do that.
Yeah.
So, but that reminded me though, you guys are probably not aware of the drafting penalties, and like, so that's what Andy was talking about. When you're within 5 bike lengths of the bike in front of you, there's an advantage because they're kind of blocking your wind. So you will get assessed a penalty of 2 minutes if you are caught riding within 5 bike lengths of the bike in front of you. Now you can pass somebody, but you have to kind of make that like, okay, I see that person up ahead and they're going slower than I am, so I'm going to pass. So once you start your pass, you need to be able to make a clean break and get in front of that person, pass them, make sure that you're completely past them, and then pull in front of them. You can't ride beside them. You can't sit on their wheel. You've got to go ahead and make that pass. And when you're making that, Andy, I heard you say earlier, on your left. So when you pass somebody, say on your left, and that way they don't pull into you. Sometimes you go to pass someone not realizing that they were planning on passing the person in front of them, and they pulled out not seeing you, and then you both crash. So you want to make sure that you say on your left. Now, I'm going to tell you that not everybody does that, but they're supposed to. And you will be safer, and those around you will be safer if you do that. And I would love to start a movement where everybody in the New England endurance races said it.
So drafting is the most common violation on the bike. The second most common violation on the bike is something called blocking. You have to stay to the right side of the road, except when you're passing. And sometimes people don't do that, and that's a penalty. We'll try to run through things so everybody can get to dinner, get to bed, depending on their schedules.
Okay, so we have just a few
Yeah,
minutes.
so there are bike plugs that will be available there, but sometimes we run out. And also, I think from a standpoint of when 40 people grab on the bike rack, the bike plugs, and it starts adding up cost-wise. So, please stop by a bike shop the next couple of days and just grab some. They're not that expensive.
Okay, so jellyfish.
I was out there today, no jellyfish.
Okay.
We have something.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay.
So the jellyfish, if for some reason there's a few jellyfish that sneak out there, and he didn't see any today, but you never know. If you go, the EMTs will be out there. They'll have their ambulance, and then they also have some backpacks. They usually walk around the transition area when they start getting bored. They have a little spray bottle, and it's like solution. Usually it's vinegar and water, and they'll just spray it on your on the sting, and it takes care of it. So we do have stuff. You can also just go back into the salt water, and the salt water is supposed to actually help, but I think the vinegar works pretty well. Okay. Bells on bikes are no problem.
Yeah. It would be kind of cute. I think the board mind it. Okay.
I think that's it. We got all the questions. Anyone have anything else? Was there anything we didn't answer? All right, I'm going to take that as no. Thank you all for staying on with us for the last hour and a half, and for taking some time to learn more about our race on Saturday. So we look forward to seeing you all, and hope you get a good night.